What is it about Don Pasquale that you think makes it such a beloved opera, and also an opera that's so adaptable?
I think first of all the story is archetypal. It's really it's the story of the sort of old lecher who is after a younger woman who is in love with his nephew, and the nephew loves the old woman, and it's a commedia plot. It probably goes back to Roman times or even earlier. It doesn't have to be in the 18th century because the story is eternal, as they say, really. And I just thought it was a funny place to put it, especially in the 30s in Miami, because it's really where both, it was sort of an enclave, a small enclave for the very wealthy socialites of the East Coast who would go down for a couple of weeks in the winter. But it was also this slightly seedy place where adventurers and adventuresses went. So I thought it was a fun atmosphere to put this particular story. I think one roots for the romantic hero, the tenor, who has these beautiful stretches. Some of the most beautiful tenor writing. And although Norina is, they say in Italian, she's vezzosa, which means kind of vivacious in not such a nice way. She also, in a curious way, has a good heart. She really does. When she slaps Don Pasquale, when she does that on an impulse, when they're in their very brief, phony marriage, which of course has not been consummated, but he does try to assert a husband's rights, stop her from going out. She slaps him, but then she feels immediately terrible. And she has this wonderful waltz of consoling him. I actually do root. I think they're wonderful people, actually. I think I do root for them. But, in Don Pasquale, you're not looking for real acting because it's not realistic. It's vocal. And the acting really is in the voice. It's in how singers play these lines out, how they color them, and in their ability to make differences between recitative and a heightened kind of singing, a more declamatory type of singing, and so on. There are many, many, many. It's a whole vocabulary. Primo Ottocento writing, bel canto writing. It's a whole vocabulary of effect. The issue for directing is that you can find a framework, Miami 1933, or if you're doing Traviata, do it in an AIDS ward. I've seen it done that way. It was quite effective. There's nothing wrong with that. But finally, that works because the singers have that vocabulary and have the control of that vocabulary, and that's what breaks your heart. In terms of finding things for them to do on stage, of course it's a comedy, so you try to invent funny business that isn't too false or campy, but is fun to watch. So in our production, we have Don Pasquale as kind of an animal fetish. There's all these stuffed animals around, which he's constantly playing with, for example. So it's very amusing. Try to make it part of a character as opposed to just shtick. So, it's like anything else. You try to keep it alive as a drama, but what ultimately keeps it alive really is the eloquence in the singing and the humor in the singing, because some of the numbers are quite funny, actually. And so it becomes a challenge for the singers. They have to act through their singing. Opera was called initially drama per musica, which means drama through music, not drama with music, as though it's a soundtrack, but drama through